insulin is so determined to store energy in the body that it will slow metabolic rate, making it easier to store the energy, and it will prevent the production of ketones. Now, why am I invoking ketones? It's simply because this is one of the ways in which we cannot perfectly account for energy in the body. It's one thing to measure metabolic rate, by measuring the gas and how much oxygen they're using and keeping this indirect calorimetry, but you cannot account for all the ketones that are being wasted.
Yeah.
So ketones have a caloric value that is roughly similar to glucose. And yet we don't worry about the fact that if someone's in ketosis because of low insulin, not only does the low insulin allow the metabolic rate to be higher, but when you're making ketones and you're breathing them out or you are urinating them out, which you do to various levels if you're in ketosis, that's energy. That is literally calories that are coming out of the body that can't be computed into some calculator for someone to try to estimate what their metabolic rate is and what their caloric needs are. So the dangers of our ongoing obsession of calories in, calories out means that we are enthralled by this idea of eat less, exercise more. And that is a wonderful way to have some short-term fat loss, but it's also a very, very good way to get very, very hungry. And so what would you do to come as hungry as possible? You would eat a little less in the days before you went, and you would probably exercise a little harder. And sure enough, you would indeed come to this beautiful buffet as hungry as possible. That's the problem. That is why eating less, exercising more can never really work in the long term, because all it's doing is pitting you more and more against your hunger, and hunger always wins. If you have a big weight loss journey ahead of you, you imagine that you can start the journey with one of two steps. If you start the step by cutting back energy, in other words, low calorie, but you don't address the high insulin, the high insulin in your body combined with the low energy coming in will result in the total amount of energy in your blood going down. David Ludwig published this paper. And as the total available energy in the blood goes down, the brain will sense that, and it will say, hey, we're running out of energy. Even though there's hundreds of thousands of calories stored in the fat cells, if you can't release that energy into the blood, the brain doesn't think it's there. And so the brain says, we need to eat. So it's time to get hungry and eat. So if your weight loss journey starts with low energy without addressing your high insulin, you're hosed. Start your weight loss journey with low insulin, where you don't have to be counting calories. You don't have to focus on being hungry. You eat as much as you want, as long as you are controlling carbohydrates, prioritizing protein, not fearing fat. Then you can lower your insulin naturally, which will allow the body to start mobilizing its own energy. And then the brain won't think you're hungry because there's more available energy in the blood for the body